Folks, look at this gorgeous blackberry wine cake. I want to show you how to make this little gem. It's fun and it's flat delicious. I've been enjoying my morning coffee, relaxing, and getting ready for this video. This is a blackberry wine cake today, and you're watching it on Texas Cooking Today. This is the new kitchen, and this is where we're going to be doing the filming from. Okay, so I have right here this cake dome that needs something inside of it, and I'm going to make a blackberry and wine cake. Now I've been working for a couple of weeks on how to get this recipe just right, and I ran into a couple of roadblocks, and the biggest one was switching a cake mix, or not a mix, but a cake recipe from using milk to using, let's say, wine. Okay, and that's what we're doing here. Well, wine has more water in it than milk does, and so you activate more gluten in the flour. So the type of flour you use in this recipe really matters. If you use all-purpose flour, you're going to get a very dense, almost bagel-like texture. It'll be heavy. If you use a cake flour in this recipe, it's going to come out light and delicate and delicious, and it works perfect. So I just had to get rid of some of that gluten to make the other ingredients work in this recipe. And that's what I've done. In the event that you cannot find blackberry wine, there is a substitute for that. Use the Concord grape wine. What we're doing here is we're looking for a fruity flavor, wine that's very sweet, and that's necessary. So that's your substitute for blackberry wine, which is very sweet. To use the Concord grape wine. These are usually Jewish wines. They're not too hard to find. Most grocery stores carry them. Those that carry wine. So take a look for that. Pick that up. This is going to use some blackberries. We're going to make a buttercream to go with it, and I want to do it in a bundt pan, and that way I get a styled cake in addition to being able to play with it with my buttercream frosting. And then we're going to throw in some whole berries just to have a little bit of fun. Blackberry wine cake. Let's get in the kitchen. Oh, hold it, we're there. Let's get right over there and get busy baking. Come on, let's do this. The ingredients that we're going to be using today on this cake are some flour. I've got butter right here. I've got some wine. Now for this you use blackberry wine. If you can't find that, use some Concord grape wine. It needs to be a nice sweet wine like that. I have some blackberry jam right here, and it needs to be preserves like this. Don't get the blackberry jelly, okay? You want something that's got the fruit in it. Also, I've got some sugar over there, granulated sugar. We have some salt, baking powder, and egg whites, and that is how this is made. You're also going to need a spray. This is one of those baking sprays that has the flour built into it, and it's great for baking. I'm going to be doing this in a bundt pan. I recommend you do something similar. It'll be fun. All right, so let's get this thing cooked up. Come on. I'm about to make this cake, so you'll know what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this butter, I'm going to put it in my mixer, and I'm going to cream it. So I'm going to put it at a medium speed, and I'm going to cream this butter until it has turned almost white and it's doubled in its bulk. Okay, so there's going to seem like there's a lot more butter there. It'll be very light and soft. I'm then going to cream in that sugar and make it soft again, and then we add in the egg whites in 2 to 3 intervals, and it's going to look kind of messy, like it won't go together, but it will. Give it a few minutes, it will combine. Your mixer will get that done, and once it does and starts turning creamy and you've scraped the bowl and you've worked it down again, then start adding in your other ingredients, just alternating between the flour mixture, which has your baking powder and salt already in it, and the wine and that jam. So work those in, and then once you have a nice smooth batter, we go ahead and put it into our pan. Don't grease and flour your bundt pan until it's time for this to go in there, and then shake that flour and oil mixture can real well before spraying down that bundt cake. All right, or the bundt pan, I'm sorry. So that's all we're going to do. Start up with creaming. Let's get her done. Now folks, just get that butter creamed. It should look light in its color, a little lighter than this is now, and a little more volume than I have here before you start working in the sugar. Slow the thing down to work the sugar. Remember your rules with a mixer, and once you have that creamed well, then we start working in the egg. We work that egg in about 1/3 of it at a time, and then we alternate the other ingredients until we have our batter fully combined. So as you see, it's a much more light thing. I've now got the egg worked into the butter and sugar combination. Just keep working it. After this beats and it becomes kind of nice and light and makes a beautiful custard, then we're going to work in those other ingredients. Remember, just alternate your last ingredients until you have your final batter. Our batter is made and beautiful. Now I'm getting ready to spray down my pan, and I'm using a spray that has both flour as well as oil in it, and it coats the pan wonderfully and releases well. Make sure though, when you're spraying, you need to spray the center part, this lower part down here, and all of the surfaces up here, making sure you get both facets on each one of these edges. Okay, so basically give it a thorough spraying. You don't have to saturate it, but be thorough with what you're doing. After that, get your batter in there, level it out, bang the pan a couple of times on the counter, good and hard. Put a towel under it. This is important. It's going to help to work those air bubbles off of the edges so that you get cleaner edges and a cleaner shape from your bundt pan. Make sure you do that. All right, we move on to baking it next. All right, something to catch drips and something to make delicious. Folks, this was in the oven at 350 degrees for 45 minutes. It's now out. I'm going to give it a 12-minute cooling period, no more. 12 minutes, and then I put something on top of this and invert it. We pull the pan off at that point, and that way it comes off good and clean. Don't wait too long, otherwise that sugar is going to re-stick to the pan, and it's going to be heck getting it out of that pan. That was my timer telling me there's 10 minutes left before turning this out. So I'll do that, I'll let it cool, and then I'm going to decorate this. We're going to use some buttercream and some berries, and we're going to decorate this cake and make it just a little more fun than it already is. I've got my cake out of the oven. I've got butter over here for some buttercream frosting. Oh, look at that. And we are going to make a wonderful little frosting to pipe in over this. I'm not going to smear it over the whole cake. I want to decorate it with piping up through the lower parts in between these high peaks here. It'll look really nice, and then we're going to add in some berries with it, and maybe even decorate it with some candies. Get some candies that match the color of the cake. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just going to cream my butter the same way I did before, and I've got 1.5 pounds of confectioner sugar that I'll work into it, and that gives me a good medium textured buttercream. It flows really easy. It's not great for holding shapes that well, but for this particular job it'll work. It has a little less sugar than you can get away with for some piping. Sometimes people like to pipe with more sugar, and that would be 2 pounds of confectioner sugar to 1 pound of butter. You can work it out however you want. I'll be using some colorant. I got some food colorant to give it a nice color, to make it pretty. So you do yours your way, and we'll take a look at this when it's done. I'm about to get into this now. The quantity of everything that I have used today starts with that flour. That is a cake flour. Make sure you use a low gluten flour for this one. It's very important. That is 480 grams of cake flour. 113 grams of butter right there, and that would be 1 stick or 1/4 pound. Over here we have 250 grams of granulated sugar. I'm using a cane sugar for this. Over here we've got some blackberry jam, and that blackberry jam is 150 grams of blackberry jam. Now I backed off of my sugar in this recipe so the jam would replace some of the sweetness in it, as well as this also. Here I have some salt, and that's 1/8 teaspoon of salt, 3 teaspoons of baking powder, and 5 large egg whites. Okay, right there. That is the recipe for this. When combined, this comes out absolutely delicious. I'm going to sift these into the flour, and then we're going to get busy making this cake. It's a lot of fun. Folks, I went ahead and used some blue and red food coloring and colored my buttercream sort of this wonderful little color right here, this little purplish color. that is what I'm going to be piping onto my cake, and I want to just pipe it right up these little ridges right here. It's going to look really sharp. Now I have my piping bag. Simple enough. Fill the piping bag, pipe it on there, decorate it with berries, and you're off and running. Okay? That's all there is to this. Now, on to the next thing, folding this back. Okay, let's go ahead and cut this cake and get a piece of it down on the plate. Oh, I can't wait for this. I'm not sure where I want to cut, if I want to cut here or here. So I'm just going to make the plunge. We're going to go right here. Yes. And then I'm going to come over. Do it again right here. And with that knife, I'm going to pull that one piece out. There we go. Hot dog. So there we have a nice little cake. Absolutely beautiful item. That's it right there. That is your blackberry wine cake. I have been sitting here and enjoying myself tremendously. Ladies and gentlemen, this right here, this is the kind of cake that I really look forward to. Something special, not every day, something that's unique. If you wanted a neat cake for the holiday season, for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever, right there, blackberry wine cake. This is a good one, and it's worth your time, your efforts, and your troubles. Folks, please take a look right underneath the video. There's that description box. There is links in the description box to my website. That's where you can buy the recipes to what I'm doing, as well as other products. And you can take a look at other things that I do there. I'm a photographer. I do that on that as my primary. This is done on the side. So folks, if you would, S.A.Trotter Arts is where it's at. This is Texas Cooking Today. It's produced by S.A.Trotter Arts LLC, and my website's S.A.Trotter.com. Please take a look at that, and thank you for coming here and watching this. Enjoy your cake. Bye-bye.